Paddle to the Sea, chapters 22, 23, and 24. Chapter 22. Paddle takes a great fall. And this is the interior of a typical lake vessel. And this is what Lake Erie looks like in its shape. In the cities along the coast of Lake Erie, Paddle traveled in smoke and steam, dust and heat, naked flight, and the clanging noises of commerce. There were tall black towers against red flashes of fire, tons of white hot metal lightning the insides of steel mills, mountains of black coal, ridges of red ore, and controlling it all, men who seemed to run around without reason, less important than ants. Ships were everywhere, loaded, empty, silent in the docks. Ships in the harbor drawn by fussy fat tugs, in the rivers hooting for drawbridges to let them through. By the time Paddle reached Buffalo, New York, he had added to his plate Toledo, Sandusky, Cleveland, Estabula in Ohio, Erie in Pennsylvania, and Port Colborne in Canada. Steel workers, mechanics, engineers, sailors all kept him a while and sent him on. His photograph got into the newspapers, went north with the boats. Bill at Whitefish Bay saw the picture and sighed with satisfaction. Mate Maloney saw it and sighed with relief. The girl's father framed it in his office. Paddle missed the paper excitement for some real excitement of his own. Ships taking the Welland Canal around Niagara Falls. Paddle didn't. "Mother, look, a little man in a boat," a child screamed. She stood with the usual crowd of people gathered this bright summer day in the beautiful Canadian park overlooking the falls. Everyone jumped and came running, just in time to see Paddle plunge over the green edge and drop down, down, down. Chapter 25, Lake Ontario at last. And that's the Niagara Falls, the American side and the Canadian side. And the Niagara River. The lower half of the falls was hidden in the midst with a rainbow. Across it, Paddle fell through the rainbow and went on falling. There was a swirling, boiling, hissing, churning, and then Paddle went under. Paddle had ridden rapids. There had been his first brook back in the forest, wild enough for its size. Then he had ridden the Mad River and seen the rapids of the Sioux, so fierce the ships went around them. But these rapids, 30-foot waves rushed like shooting stars, turning inside out at every jump. Paddle flew up a chain of wet volcanoes, plunged deep in submarine dives, and took sudden trips towards the moon in green rockets. Oh, there he is, way up there at the top. Far from the falls, he came to the surface, rolled over and over down the Niagara River and into a whirlpool, where it seemed that all the water in the Great Lakes suddenly decided to run back uphill. Paddle bumped into huge timbers and trees that had whirled in a giddy pace for years, unable to escape. By some miracle, he got past this never-stop merry-go-round after a day, or maybe a week. And then at last, Paddle floated into the calm waters of Lake Ontario. Black coots and white terns looked him over. Kindly people picked him up. Someone took him to Toronto, someone else to Kingston, and through the Thousand Islands. The dizzy fall lay behind, the sea ahead. Chapter 24, Across the Great River. Paddle spent the winter in Canada with a little old lady who lived beside the St. Lawrence River near Montreal. Paddle joined her collection of Indian, French, and British curios of early Canada. An American boy visiting Montreal liked to listen to her stories of the St. Lawrence. She called it the river. The Indian name for the river was Canada, she said one day. Yes, the French took the name for this country and called the river St. Lawrence. Nowadays, the canals dug around its rapids. Some of the biggest ships come 1,000 miles from the sea to Montreal. This is a skyscraper city today, but it started as an Indian trading post. And Quebec was a trading post too. See that piece of birch bark sewn with split roots? 200 years ago, it was part of a Huron Indian canoe that rode the river. Every spring, Indian canoes with many paddlers brought beaver pelts to the French at these posts. Yes, Frenchmen explored the river and the lakes. Champlain, called the father of New France, was the first governor of Canada at Quebec. He discovered the lakes and fought the Iroquois. The Hurons loved him, but the Iroquois hated all Frenchmen and in the end helped the English to get Canada. But whole towns along the river still speak French to this day, and Montreal is the third largest French-speaking city in the world. Yes, she said, peering over spectacles, the river has made history. Wish I knew it all. Paddle here comes from where the river really starts in the hills above Lake Superior. Long journey. Come spring, I'll give him back to the river and send him along to the sea.